Hey everyone, welcome back from working with your groups on this case file. So now we're going to look at the different artifacts together and try to figure out what exactly were each of these artifacts representing. So in the second column on this handout, you gave your prediction of how this item relates to World War II. Now you're actually going to go and write, was your prediction correct, yes or no, as we go through this, and write down what the artifact actually represents, okay? And it's okay if you need to pause the video that I'm recording right now to write some things down before we move on to the next one. So feel free to do that, okay? So if we go to this PowerPoint, we're going to look together here and see exactly what each piece means in your case file today for World War II. So case file A gave you a photo here, and some of you may not know exactly where that is. Some of you might. So looking at the next slide, some ideas might have been a painting of Great Britain, which was part of World War II. Maybe it's a town that has a really strong government. Maybe people are waiting to cross a bridge to get to an important person. If you look back at that photo at the bridge here, we don't exactly know what this photo is. So it could be a town that was destroyed. It could represent Europe, could represent a European city. It looks very much European there. It could be where an assassination happened based on what you know from World War I. We don't know. So let's see what it actually represents. This artifact actually is artwork that Adolf Hitler created here. And one of the many reasons that Hitler was anti-Semitic, meaning he had a hatred for Jews, was because he blamed Jewish leaders at the Vienna School of Art for not accepting his application to the school. There are actually a lot of different paintings that Adolf Hitler did, and he actually was a pretty good artist. So very interesting there that that's exactly what that means, okay? You can pause the video if you need to between each case file artifact. If you need to, don't forget that you can do that. All right, so moving on to the next one. Case file B, okay, is this this item here. It says California State Board of Health, Bureau of Vital Statistics. Some of you may have looked at the names. You may have looked and seen what exactly those things are. Some of you probably noticed that the name had Japan on there, Japanese. So ideas. Japan is part of the Axis powers. You learned that last year in 7th grade social studies. Maybe the immigrants were coming from Japan. Maybe this person on the birth certificate is a spy, okay, based on what you know about what the Japanese did to the Americans during World War II. Remember Pearl Harbor last year? Maybe birth certificates were used as passports back then to get from place to place to travel. Maybe it's a Japanese prisoner trying to get into America. Maybe this person is treated differently because they're Japanese and after what happened with the attack on Pearl Harbor. Since this was in California, maybe this person was sent to a Japanese internment camp. We don't know. Maybe it's somebody that died in World War II. Maybe it's just their birth certificate. So let's actually see what this is. It is a birth certificate of a Japanese American. So somebody who already lived in America but was Japanese. So we call them a Japanese American. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps out of fear that they were spying for Japan. So America wasn't all that innocent in the way that we were treating other people as well during World War II. Okay, case file C is Donald Duck, right? We've all been to Disney World, or maybe we've all been to Disney World. You know I love Disney. Anyway, so you see Donald Duck here. Kind of looks like he has a uniform on maybe. Let's take some guesses at what we think we might have here. So ideas. Maybe you thought it represented the army of Germany or the United States. Maybe it's a person swearing in to join the army, right? He has his little hand up like this. Maybe he's like doing his salute. A British soldier, which would have been our ally, right? Maybe it represents children going to war. Maybe it's propaganda for people to join the war. Maybe it's a Japanese soldier who lost the war. Maybe it's someone forced to be a soldier because he doesn't look very happy to be serving. He's kind of got like a very flat, looking attitude on his face. Okay, and maybe it's a Boy Scouts honor, right? Who knows? So let's look here and see what this actually is. This artifact actually represents propaganda for World War II, which started to involve cartoons. World War II is the first time we see cartoons being used. And remember in the 1920s and 30s, you researched that Disney was booming at this time, okay? It was at its peak. So this is when things really start to come about for that in World War II. Donald Duck and other characters were used to persuade Americans to have different beliefs about our enemies. We actually are going to watch a video of that too in the next few days during this unit. All right, case file D, okay, you had a piece of a battleship game. Well, you're like battleships, okay, I remember World War I having battleships maybe, but World War II really has the battleships here. What could that represent? Maybe ships used for war. maybe the bombing of Pearl Harbor, maybe at war overseas, maybe it's our Navy, maybe it means technology to find other people, like in the game where you guess where the other person's going to be. Maybe it's submarine warfare, maybe it's the type of ships that were used. Let's find out what it actually is. This artifact actually represents that battleships were used to fight as part of our Navy. Many ships were attacked at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii by the Japanese. North Carolina had a battleship that fought, the USS North Carolina, which is actually located in Wilmington now. Maybe some of you have been there to visit before and view the battleship. All right, let's look at the next artifact here that we have. Case file E, you had a gardening glove. Well, what does that have to do with anything in World War II? Maybe they used it to protect themselves from flammable goods. Maybe they wore them when they were conducting scientific experiments. Maybe they wore them when they were planting victory gardens. Okay, maybe victory gardens were around in World War I and are around in World War II. Maybe they're carrying around ammunition. Maybe they're wearing them in factories when they're working to make goods for the war effort back at home, or working outside to protect your hands. We know we use them today for that. So what would they maybe be used for? The artifact actually represents two different things. So the first one, if you had work glove, it does represent the work on the home front in factories by people, but more specifically about women. And if you had a gardening glove, it does represent the work that Americans were doing to grow food for soldiers. So victory gardens are still around in World War II for America as well. All right, let's look at our last artifact here. You were like, Kilroy, what is Kilroy? And you probably noticed that this guy is kind of like peeking over maybe a fence or something. Let's see what we think. Maybe it's vandalism. Maybe it's someone that was deported. Maybe someone's being secretive, like trying to hide. Maybe it's a trick to mislead someone to go somewhere when it's saying that they were here. Maybe it's Jews hiding from the Nazis. Or maybe it's a wall dividing different areas, dividing countries as the borders are changing a lot throughout World War II, like you learned last year. The artifact actually represents a symbol by American soldiers that they often drew or left behind to let others know they had been there. It started with a ship inspector, his last name was Kilroy, that noted when he had inspected different ships. Soldiers loved it and kept the tradition going, and it actually became a symbol of courage, pride, encouragement, and a morale booster for the Americans during World War II. So I hope today that you were able to actually learn some more information about the war that you don't know yet. And we're actually going to dive much deeper into several different pieces of these artifacts as we move through our World War II unit in the next couple of weeks. As we wrap up class here, I want you to go ahead and put your artifact away, hold on to that case file until tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at specific key leaders and important people in the United States and all over the world as we dive further into World War II. We're also going to be taking some beginning of World War II notes, so make sure that you are ready to work tomorrow. Just as a reminder, your World War II test, okay, we're going to have a test this unit, will be next Friday. So make sure that you're keeping up with your notes so that way you can be successful on the tests next week. Please be on your best behavior. Make sure you push in your chairs on the way out the door, and have a great day. Bye.